Hi guys, it's your boy Lace Chemist. I had some free time today, so I finally wanted to get around to doing a quick review. I don't know how quick it's going to be, but we'll see. Of the Pimax Crystal Super 50 PPD. First, I just want to start off with the Gospel of Jesus Christ, which is Jesus is the Son of God. He was crucified for the sins of the world. He was buried, and on the third day he rose again, so that if you can confess that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. And yeah, just keep holding on to that. And if you believe that when you see him, you'll be like him, you purify yourself as he is pure. All right, now let's get into it. So here it is in all its glory. Not as much glory as Jesus, of course, but here we go. So I have the DMAS headphones on. I got like an earlier batch, so they shipped blue ones, and the rest of it is black. So that was kind of weird when I first got it, but also I installed Comfort Studios Apache V3 strap here and their little weight balances, so it looks a little bit more ghetto than when if just stock form, but I feel like it makes it a lot more comfortable. I also installed the Comfort Studio. Not really sure what this is called, but it makes the back strap bigger and wider, and it has a pad on there. Okay, and then as far as the top strap goes, I actually found after 6 months of use, I found this the most comfortable way to do it. So this is the Pimax Comfort top strap. Here's the regular head strap. So what I did was I actually ran it through from the back. I ran it through the Comfort top strap the first way, then I ran it through the front and then pulled it back. So this way I found that if I run it through the Comfort top strap first, when it sits on my head, the top strap does the work of holding it, pulling it up off your face, but this part doesn't actually touch my head anymore, so I can't feel the top strap, but it does the job of holding it up and lifting the weight off. So that's really nice. I've had quite a few headsets so far. This is the last one I had, the Pimax 8KX. So just for a quick size comparison. God, it's kind of hard to see which way I'm moving things with this webcam. But yeah, it's quite a big size difference. And I think overall, and I don't think it really does it justice on the video, like it looks I think it looks really sleek, to be honest. So I like the angled edges, all that jazz. So yeah, it shipped with the Comfort top strap because I was like a pre-order thing. I got it with the Comfort top strap, and then they included, took a while to get here, but they finally threw in the ice silk pad. So this is what it looks like. It kind of reminds me, I think it's the Play for Dream that it looks like. I actually just put it on for this video because I had the Comfort Studios one on before, but I tested it again and I think it's pretty comfortable. The stock ones it comes with are these fleece pads in two different sizes. This is the thicker one. This is the thinner one. These aren't too bad either, but not as, I would say the ice silk one is more comfortable, and then the Comfort Studio one is more comfortable too. This is like the index fabric, supposedly. So yeah, what can I say about it other than the size? And so I would recommend getting the Comfort Studio mods though. It does actually make a big difference. Particularly, I would say this back strap helps a lot, and the weights help. The head strap actually doesn't make too big of a difference. But yeah, and then also I put the Apache head strap on the back here because I find it's most people rock it on the around here, but I think it's more useful having um, a strap more towards the back of your head. I feel like it weights the distribution better, especially since this one's already more towards the middle. Um, I guess I'm just going over all the accessories first. So I also got these lens inserts from VR Rock. Uh, I think the lens quality is fine. It's good. However, they are much too bulky for me, and they would always be like hitting my nose. I guess my nose is kind of wide, so it'd always be pushing my nose, and then even if I could adjust it not to push my nose, it'd be like really pushing against my eye here. So, yeah, I don't know what to say about these really. Like, they do the job and they work good, but they are much too bulky for this headset. So, if you're looking at prescription inserts, I would suggest trying a different brand other than VR Rock. Okay. um, Let me read. I posted a review on Reddit, so let me read some of that just to tell you what it's like. So the FOV on this, I would say it's really good. Coming from the AKX, I used to use the AKX on normal mode, not large, because I found on large, I felt like normal was already big enough, and then on large, it would introduce more distortions on the edge, which even though it was wider, it had more distortions, which would annoy me more than having less FOV. So compared to normal mode on the AKX, I would say if you can get your eyes close on the Pimax Crystal Super 50 PPD, I would say it's about the same as normal mode. Like, uh, I don't know number wise, but I would say the feeling sensation wise, I don't think you'll be like, dang, disappointed. I wasn't disappointed at all. Because when the Crystal Light first came out, I was like, oh man, they're going backwards. They're going from the AKX to this. But then when this came out and I tried it, and I was like, yep, the FOB is like didn't leave me feeling like, oh dang, this is a downgrade. It felt adequate, and the resolution was a crazy improvement. So I would say it lived up to my hype on the FOB. I would say it lived up to my hype on the resolution for sure. And I think the colors are really good too. Especially, surprisingly, the blacks are really good. Um, there's probably some there's probably some black crush, but like, I really like OLED TVs, and I don't really find a need to upgrade to the micro OLED version of the Pimax Crystal Super that just came out for the blacks. I feel like it's black enough and good. So that's a good point. I think the only reason you might want to consider the micro OLED version is, I'm sure you've heard by now, the QLED modules do suffer from um, an effect called mirror, and yeah, it really annoyed me when I first got it. But ironically, I feel like it's gotten better since, I don't know if I just got more used to it or what, but I feel like it's actually, I was in it this week, and I was like, I barely even noticed it anymore. So I was really gonna upgrade to the micro OLED version just for the mirror, but when I was using it this week, I was like, you know what? This is good enough. I don't need to upgrade it. I'm not gonna spend another $1,300 just for, particularly because you only notice the mirror, at least for me, and when you're looking at the sky or in bright scenes. So I noticed it in car racing games. I don't do flight sim, so I can't really tell you. But if I'm assuming it's a sky, so you probably notice it in flight sims as well. And then Steam Home environment when you look at the sky. Other than that, any other game I've ever been in, I've never noticed it. So if you're really in the flight sim or racing sims, that might be a pretty big deal breaker to you. So if that's the case, you might want to consider just going for the micro OLED version. But other than that, I think the Crystal Super 50 PPD is a great choice all around. It's got good FOB. I think the sweet spot is great. I don't have any problem finding focus. The only thing I will say is there is chromatic aberration around. I find it mostly around if like a screen pops up in SteamVR and like a desktop screen or a menu screen, I'll notice like a rainbow effect around the edges of the screen. But I don't really notice it in game, so not much of a deal breaker for me there. Doo-doo. Let's see, the binocular overlap, I think it's pretty good. It's more comfortable than the AKX. It's definitely more 3D. I noticed when I'm in sim racing, when I was in the AKX, it'd feel like the car was 3D, and then it reminded me of like in arcades back in the day where you'd sit in like a real life car and then they would have projector screens on the side. That's what the AKX felt like to me. It felt like I was in a car and then I was looking at like a projector screen on the outside. With this, I feel like much more immersed, and the 3D effect is much more realistic. Even after all these years of being in VR, because I remember on the HTC Vive when I first tried it, and I was like in the lab or whatever, and the Gladys robot would come out, and then it was like coming towards me. I was like, oh my gosh, you know. And I don't really get that effect in VR anymore because my brain just got used to it. But overall, I think the 3D feeling is pretty convincing in this headset. Also, it does still get uncomfortable on my eyes, but a lot less so. Like I can be in this headset for like hours at a time now without it um, really affecting me too bad. So I do always feel a little bit nauseous or a little off when getting out for like an hour or so, but overall it's not bad. Like you don't feel like, oh, I have to get out of this right now. So that's good. The DMAS headphones, I would say they're actually quite good. One thing I did realize is if you get the Dolby Atmos for headphones thing on your computer, it makes them a lot louder and better sounding. So I would recommend spending the $15 for that. You could also, I've heard, use like the free apps like Peace Equalizer APO. I've used that in the past. I haven't tried it with these headphones yet because I didn't really feel like tweaking all that. But the Dolby Atmos worked for me, and it made it a lot louder and sound better, especially in Beat Saber. Because at first, without the Dolby Atmos, it's like all the songs were too quiet, but now they're not, and now it sounds good. All right. Uh, do, do, do. I guess I'll just compare it to. I tried the Crystal Light while I was waiting for my pre-order for this, because I kept getting delayed, unfortunately. And I was like, is this even worth it? Because I was kind of contemplating switching to the Megan X at that point because it was taking so long. And I was really impressed with the Crystal Light coming from the AKX. So the main thing I didn't like about the Crystal Light was the FOV was too small for me. If you had the AKX, I would consider it to be like comparable to the potato mode on there. And what I didn't like, particularly about in the Crystal Light, was the FOV was like a square rectangular box, and it was really noticeable for me, like when first loading into a game, that it was a rectangle. I like more of the circular um, views in VR. I find it less distracting. So that was my main dislike in the Crystal Light, and I also didn't really like the form factor. I thought it was still a little bit too bulky. So for me, because if you have a AKX, you can get a $400 off coupon for the Crystal Super. So at that point, it's only $1,300, and I think at that point it's a definite go. If you are paying like the close to 1,800, that's why I think it might be um, more reasonable to consider the micro OLED. But for 1,300 versus 2,300, that's a big difference, you know. So yeah. Um, I think the tracking is pretty good. As far as like a lot of people complain about it not being lighthouse tracking. For me, when I first got it, the tracking has improved a lot since it first came out. Um, at one point there was this problem where like even if the game wasn't running at low FPS, sometimes it would just like start stuttering and make it like the screen do this like slow frame thing and the world would move with you periodically, but they fixed that problem. So I think the head tracking is great and perfect. I don't notice any difference between Lighthouse and that. What you do notice is kind of in shooters. These are the controllers, by the way. Pretty similar to the Quest controllers, I would say, or Quest 2 controllers at least. I think they're pretty good. Lightweight. They do the job, I would say. Um, Maybe the rumble isn't too good in them, but I think they're good enough. But yeah, for the tracking, a lot of people complain. Um, when the tracking first came out, I did have really bad problems with FPSs. Um, I would say they improved it a lot. It's still not perfect, but for me, it's usable. So yeah, it's not as good as the index hand controls. That's for sure, but I think it's still passable. Maybe if you're like really into competitive shooters, though, you might want to look elsewhere or get the Lighthouse Tracking Edition. Yeah, so especially for if you could get it for 1300, I think it's a steal. Compared to the Crystal Light, when I went from the AKX to the Crystal Light, it was like a huge improvement in resolution, and I was actually quite impressed. Other than the small FOV, like I was saying, and yeah, because at that point it was like a $300 upgrade to keep my pre-order and get this with the new form factor and the higher FOV. So I was that's why I ended up just keeping my pre-order and returning the light. But I think the light's a pretty good choice too, minus the FOV. But yeah, so if you could get this for 1300, I think you'll be really happy. Even if at full price, I still think it's probably the best headset you can get at the moment, but obviously $1,800 is quite a bit to pay for a VR headset, and it's still not perfect, particularly with the mirror. Also, the resolution I've noticed in regular VR games, it's great to me, but in sim racing games, there's still shimmering effects on like the fences, no matter what. So I don't know how high of a resolution we're gonna have to get to in order to get rid of that completely in those games. I think it might be more of a game issue, optimization issue than a headset issue at this point. Because when I'm in any native VR game, I never notice any shimmering or screen door effect or anything like that. So yeah, let me see. Is there anything else? Oh, I guess I would just say, coming from the AKX to the Crystal Light, I was really impressed with the resolution jump. I was like, wow, this is really good. But after trying the Crystal Light to go into the Crystal Super, I was, um, I would say it lived up to my expectations, but my expectations were lower going from the AKX to the Crystal Light, and it was like a huge improvement. And then going from the Crystal Light to the Crystal Super, it was an improvement, but it wasn't like surprising or mind blowing. It was just kind of like, oh, this is better, but not like drastically better. Like, oh wow, no, it's real, you know? So that's what I would say. And yeah, overall, especially with the comfort mods, I would say it's pretty comfortable. I know there's like a big thing about getting the small form factor headsets now, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm also interested in them, trying them. But when I'm actually wearing this, it's comfortable to me. Like I guess I've never experienced one of the small form factor ones yet, so that might change it, but I don't really feel like I'm uncomfortable in this, if that makes sense. Also, I realize you can flip it up. I didn't know you could do that first. Not completely, but like I could still like flip it up and put it on the top of my head between rounds and it kind of stays there. So if you, because I was really interested in the Mega Next flipping up, so it doesn't flip up exactly the same, but it does somewhat, so you can still kind of rest it on your head while you're taking a break without taking it completely off. And yeah, I think that's about it. Sorry this video wasn't more structured. I was just kind of going off the top of my dome and experience I've had with it so far. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Yeah, thanks for watching. God bless.